Welcome to my channel, friends. Today I am going to explain a beautiful British period drama. The film was released in 1988. It is based on the life of a beautiful governess, who entangles herself between an old man and his son. So without wasting time, let's the explanation begin. The film opens with a scene of people gathering for a church service, where we meet Rosina da Silva, a vibrant and youthful woman embracing life with joy. While her father leads the prayer, she engages in a conversation with her friend about matters of intimacy. Rosina hails from a devout Jewish family. Upon returning home, a lively gathering unfolds with people relishing dinner and dancing. Her father tends to the guests, and Rosina lends a hand. Later in the night, she retires to her bed and confides in her sister, Rebecca. Rosina confesses that she shared a kiss with Benjamin, a friend of hers, at the party. Rebecca admonishes her, reminding her that she's not yet married. However, Rosina asserts that actresses like her often forego marriage to pursue such passions. Their conversation is interrupted by a loud commotion downstairs, prompting them to investigate. Their mother instructs them to return upstairs, as their father is in critical condition, receiving medical attention from a doctor. Moments later, the doctor delivers the devastating news of their father's passing. He had ventured out at night and was grievously assaulted, leading to his death after a few hours. In the following days, a wealthy fish merchant proposes to marry Rosina. He is older but willing to support her family, who are left in dire financial straits after her father's demise. Despite the desperate situation, Rosina resolutely refuses to marry the elderly man. She confides in Rebecca, expressing her determination to take the stage and do whatever it takes to make a living, refusing to enter a loveless marriage. The story then shifts to Rosina's rehearsal for a play in a theater, struggling to develop an entertaining script. While awaiting a response to a job application, she sits with her mother and sister. Soon, she receives a letter from London offering a teaching position, which she eagerly accepts. Her mother is unhappy with her decision, believing that women working outside the home will lead to moral compromise. However, Rosina's family circumstances compel her to leave her hometown and embark on her journey to London. Upon her arrival in London, she meets Mrs. Cavendish, who has hired her to teach her young daughter, Clementina. It becomes evident that Clementina is a challenging, ill-behaved child, likely the reason Rosina was brought in to educate her. Rosina takes on the task of teaching the young girl valuable lessons. During a dinner gathering, Rosina encounters Clementina's father, Charles, who has a penchant for humor and is deeply engrossed in his research work. The next morning, Clementina takes Rosina to the beach, where they catch fish, while her father collects specimens for his research. Rosina becomes intrigued by Charles's work and is eager to learn more about his pursuits. Charles's passion involves collecting specimens and taking photographs, a novelty available only to the well-to-do. Charles departs to gather more specimens, leaving Rosina with a sense of curiosity. In the quiet of the night, after everyone has retired to sleep, she secretly ventures to Charles's workspace to uncover the nature of his work. To her amazement, she discovers an array of specimens and photographs. The following morning, she awakens to find a photograph placed beside her bed, a gesture by Charles, who knows she had visited his workspace the previous night. The following day, Rosina resumed teaching Clementina as usual. During the lesson, a maid arrived with a letter addressed to Rosina. To her surprise, it was from Charles, asking her to meet him at his workplace at 6 in the evening. Rosina wasted no time and arrived punctually at 6, finding Charles eagerly awaiting her. He explained his innovative work with cameras, how they could capture images but not yet transfer them to paper. His ultimate goal was to accomplish this and document the world around him. Rosina, curious and excited, inquired if he had ever attempted to photograph people, to which Charles replied that it had never piqued his interest. He invited her to assist him during her spare time, a proposition she happily accepted. The next morning, Rosina and Clementina headed to the beach, where they attracted the attention of a young boy. Clementina recognized him as Henry, Charles's son, and insisted he join them for a while. Henry, initially acting a bit foolish, indulged in wine and retreated to his room. Over time, Rosina and Clementina's friendship blossomed. Rosina found herself becoming more integrated into the family, and Charles, recognizing her intelligence and familiarity with his work, asked for her help regularly. Meanwhile, Rosina attempted to understand Henry better, despite his eccentric behavior. She learned that he had been an Oxford student, a fact she shared with Charles, who remained somewhat indifferent, preoccupied with his tireless quest to print pictures. One night, as Rosina lay in bed, she pondered a way to make Charles's invention work for portraiture. Using a candle and smoke, she devised a solution and showed it to Charles the following morning. He was overjoyed by her innovation, and they set about developing photographs together. Charles found himself not only impressed with her intellect but also drawn to her beauty. One evening, as Rosina congratulated Charles on capturing the essence of life through his invention, she reflected on her deceased father and the ability to immortalize people in photographs. Charles, inspired by her words, agreed to try capturing a portrait. As he photographed her, he couldn't help but be captivated by her beauty and realized he had been missing the true joys of life. The next morning, while adjusting Rosina's pose, he was entranced by her grace, and their growing attraction led to a private moment where she kissed him. Charles fell in love with Rosina, and her loneliness began to fade. One evening, they all gathered as Clementina sang for them. Encouraged by their appreciation, Rosina joined in and captivated everyone with her talent. Afterward, Charles led her to his workplace, where they shared a private moment. As they laid together, Rosina explained the ancient Jewish tradition of making love while being covered with cloth. Their connection deepened, and they spent the entire night discussing Rosina's life. The next morning, Rosina took Henry with her to give botany lessons to Clementina, and she danced with Henry, who had also developed feelings for her. Later, she met with Charles, who expressed anger and frustration at their growing feelings, as he believed they were interfering with his work. Rosina reassured him, telling him that happiness was never a sin. She encouraged him to capture the true beauty of life through his camera and began to pose for him, igniting a profound love between them. In a church service, Henry confessed his love for Rosina, while at night, Charles struggled with his emotions, realizing that they were both a barrier to his work and an irresistible force in his life. After processing the photograph, Charles couldn't get Rosina out of his mind. He approached her, seeking forgiveness, and the two spent the night together. However, by the next day, Charles was convinced that Rosina was distracting him from his work. Rosina, feeling hurt, retreated to her room, shedding tears for her distant family. Seizing the opportunity, Henry took advantage of her emotional vulnerability, and they shared a private night. The following morning, Henry approached Charles, inquiring about the possibility of marrying Rosina. Knowing of Charles's own involvement with her, Charles vehemently refused. Henry argued that Rosina loved him, provoking Charles to anger and leading him to distance himself from Rosina. Disillusioned and disheartened by Henry's actions, Rosina decided to leave her job and return home. But before her departure, she unveiled a photograph of Charles, taken while he was asleep, to his wife. This revelation fueled the wife's anger, and Henry realized Charles had been unfaithful with Rosina. Upon returning home, Rosina was confronted with a world turned upside down. Her sister, Rebecca, delivered the devastating news that their mother had passed away during Rosina's absence. Determined to support her sister, Rosina chose to stay in her hometown. In a surprising turn of events, Charles appeared at her doorstep, imploring her to return and assuring her the freedom to pursue her desires. This time, Rosina ignored him, resolute in her decision to remain at home for good. On that note, movie ends. So friends, that's all in today's video. If you like this video, please hit the like button, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. I will meet you in the next video. Till then, peace out.